whole life I've been running after one thing, to find that part within that'll measure up to something. I've got a lot of dreams, but I was told I wasn't practical. I couldn't measure up because of all my flaws, but I know they're wrong. Those are only stepping stones. Life's the art of embracing these things, yeah.
Gretchen Rubin, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for giving your time coming from New York City. We got to give a shout out to our mutual friend Jen Lerner for making this happen. And Jen and you are very similar. She's told me about you, just the energy, the smile, the contagious, just the positivity that you bring. It's shown through your books. And what people might not know too is Kansas City natives, me and you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what's your favorite barbecue?
I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Oh, likewise. What's your favorite barbecue in Kansas City? That's what you ask all Kansas Cityans.
I think Q39. It's hard to pick, but Q39.
Yep. And you've been back recently because it's one of the newer ones. Nice call.
Oh, yeah. I go back all the time. Yeah.
Love it. Love us. Gretchen, start us off with a bang. So everybody knows about you being one of the top authors in the world, multiple-time New York Times bestsellers, great blog, podcast. But start us off with something that maybe not necessarily everybody knows about you. Something different, Gretchen.
Well, I'm really preoccupied with color. It turns out there's a huge literature about color, and I just, out of nowhere, a couple of years ago, I became very preoccupied with just the beauties of color. And so it's just this odd, quirky little subject that I end up spending a lot of time thinking about.
That's incredible. Isn't there a book, it's either called Joy or it's called Color, where they talk about how impactful color has been on societies, and there's stories of it just adding color to cities, which changed the whole trajectory of the way the city operated. Is that the power of color? Touch on that real quick. What have you learned from this infatuation with color?
Well, one of the things that's interesting is just how it's so hard to define. I have what's called a visual dictionary, and so it'll have a staircase, and it'll tell you the name of every piece of the staircase, or it'll have clothes through the ages, and it's all the things you're I never knew what that was, but that's what that thing is. And it didn't have a section for color, and I thought, well, that's so strange because of everything I would like a name for. I would like the words for colors, but I think the reason they don't have it is that there's really no way to say what burgundy is. We can kind of generally agree on burgundy, but what one person calls cobalt and what one person calls sage. And then also, you say that things are olive, but of course olives come in, or apple, they come in so many different colors. We've sort of decided that one color is olive green. They come in many different colors. And so there's sort of this ineffable quality to color. We all see it, we feel the power, we're drawn to it. And yet if I say sky blue, what are you going to think? Also, so interesting, in English, we have pink and red. And in Russian, they have the same thing for blue. But we don't have that. Yeah.
Wow. Isn't it interesting how words can mean different things? It's just what we are taught as we grow up. We have these connotations with words. That's incredible. I'm going to start looking into that. Thank you. Gretchen, when was your breakthrough moment? When did you feel was there a time in your life that you felt stuck, that you didn't necessarily know where you were going, where you were headed? And we'll dive into the amazing opportunities that you passed up to follow your passion, follow your dream of being an author. But is there a defining moment that sticks out to you? You're man, this was the moment that I felt this breakthrough of who I've become today.
Take a quick break in the podcast because you know what I love almost more than anything is a great cup of coffee. Oh, I just wake up excited for my coffee. You know what I'm talking about. If you're a coffee person, if you're not a coffee person, you need to kind of just check your priorities. But what else do I love? I love workouts. I love training. And what if you could put workouts and coffee together? You always thought about coffee is just this natural pre-workout, and then you got pre-workouts. What if you had the best of both worlds? Well, now you do. Workout coffee is finally here. I wish I would have created this. Such a great concept and idea, and where nature meets science. And all the workout coffee products are powered by TheaFit, which is a high-potency theaflavin enriched black tea extract that is patented and clinically proven to improve exercise performance and reduce recovery time. So the question is, what are theaflavins? Great question. Naturally formed from the oxidation of tea leaves, they've been shown to have strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, as well as supporting liver health, blood lipids, and the immune system. So think about that. You're getting all this and coffee, the taste of coffee, the energy of coffee, my mind is blown. I am going to wake up in the middle of the night, have a cup in the afternoon, in the evening. Like, keep it coming. Workout Coffee. Check it out. workout-coffee.com. Look at the links in the show notes below. We are going to have a discount code for you in there too. Check them out and get your coffee today and your workout on. Now, back to the episode.
I think the moment where I felt the biggest breakthrough was when I got an agent. So, I started my career in law and I was working in law, and then I became very preoccupied with an idea for a book. This is sort of a theme. I get very preoccupied with ideas and will kind of pursue them relentlessly. And I was working on what became my first book, even before I knew that I wanted to be a writer. I was just sort of doing it in my free time. Then finally it occurred to me, hey, I'm doing the kind of work that a person would do if they were going to be a writer. Maybe I could write this book and get this book published. So I got a book called How to Write and Sell Your Nonfiction Book Proposal. But the thing about being a writer is, like many things, a lot of people do it, but they're not really that serious about it. Like, maybe they're kind of goofing around and saying, like, I'm working on a screenplay or whatever. And I was like, no, but I'm really doing this. But it's like, who's to say? What does it mean to be really doing it? But it's very, very hard to get an agent. And I tell people all the time, it's harder to get an agent, a literary agent, than it is to actually like get a book contract, because it's more difficult, I think, for many people. But once I had an agent, it was like somebody had decided that like I was worth their time. Time is money. This person was putting their time into me because they thought that like I was like I had become a client. And it was the first time where I felt like, okay, this isn't just like my dream. This is something that other people are like, yeah, I think she can pull that off. And to me, that was like enormously the morale of that, of being like, okay, now someone is kind of like invested in me in a way. Not to mention that I got all this tremendous advice and moral support and, strategic, like I had no idea how to proceed. I needed an agent for knowledge. But just the idea that I had an agent was a big breakthrough for me.
Oh, that's great. It's a spark of encouragement where somebody believes in you, where you have it. You just need that little igniter. Man.
But it was like other people believed in me, but she was banking on me.
Right.
Like it was her business. So it was like, it wasn't just somebody being like, oh, girl, you got this. This was somebody being like, oh, yeah, I think I can take this. Like, I think I can sell this. And that was the difference for me. It's making me a professional writer.
There you go. Making you professional. Coming from somebody that is a professional in that space,
yeah.
telling that
yeah.
you have it.
Yeah.
And rewinding the tape a little bit, like top of law school at Yale, you're clerking for Sandra Day O'Connor. I'm sure when you told people this, they all looked at it from the surface like, oh my gosh, wow, how amazing is this? Gretchen's doing such great things. But that wasn't your true calling, your true passion. It was the good keeping you from the great. Were there like things that came up or roadblocks where you felt like, man, how do I shed this what other people think? Because you had to reinvent yourself, just like I have done in the basketball world to the author space. It's not hard, or it's not easy to do.
For me, it was about like I did have this idea for a book, or this subject that I was so fascinated by. Like one day I was walking around the Capitol. I was working in Washington D.C. and just kind of for fun. How you sometimes like pose yourself these rhetorical questions. I thought, what am I interested in that everybody else in the world is interested in? And I thought, well, power, money, fame, sex. And it was like power, money, fame, sex. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, this subject, which to me seemed like one subject, power, money, fame, sex. Like all I wanted to do was research it and think about it and take notes. And then that ended up being my first book. But for me, it was much more being pulled towards something than feeling like I didn't want something. So I went to law school for all the wrong reasons. It was like, I'm really good at research and writing. I'll keep my options open. It's a great education. I can always change my mind later. So I had a great experience, but I had never like set out to be a lawyer. So I had this great experience. I don't regret it at all. But I was sort of coming to the point where I had to decide what to do next. And there was nothing in law that called to me, but this project, like all I wanted to do was work on this project. And finally I thought, well, I'd rather fail as a writer than succeed as a lawyer. So why don't I give it a shot and see what happens? So it was less about leaving something and more about moving towards something that I could see that I really wanted.
So good. That's obsession. And Jen has told me, she's like,
It's,
hey, Gretchen went all in. Like, you don't understand.
yeah.
You're like all in, like years putting into this. And it's a testament to what you have done. And you are a constant learner. I mean, being in a book club, I'm getting this great information from our friend Jen. And she says like she's constantly learning from everything. I mean, even just the note of color, like you're learning from color. What do you attribute to some of the books, some of the great books that have impacted you in your life, or some of the great people in your life that have impacted you on the journey?
It's hard to say because I feel like I'm one of these people who like gets incredibly inspired by everything. Like my favorite thing about myself is I have a lot of epiphanies where I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So some are, one of my favorite writers is Samuel Johnson, Dr. Johnson, the 18th century English writer. And one of the things, he just says things just kind of offhandedly in his 18th century way that give me so much insight into myself. So one thing he was at a party, it's recorded, and someone offered him wine. And they said, no, will you take a little wine? And he said, I can't take a little. Abstinence is as easy to me as temperance would be difficult, meaning I can have none, but I can't have a little bit. And when I read that, I thought, that's me. That's how I am about sweets. I can have none or I can have all, but I can't have a little bit. And once I saw that Dr. Johnson felt that way, then I was like, okay, I'm the same way. And it's just like, and I quit sugar because I'm like, it's just easier for me to have none than to try to have a little bit. So that's something I read really changed, moved me and sort of transformed my way of understanding myself. And then sometimes somebody will just say something like, I was having lunch with somebody who I don't even know well. She was like the friend of a friend, and we ended up sort of getting to know each other. And I write about happiness and good habits. And my sister calls me a happiness bully because if I think there's a way for you to get happier, I can kind of get up in your face about it. And so I was asking this woman, like, oh, what could you do that would make you happier? And she said, well, it's funny. I know I'm happier when I exercise. And when I was in high school, I was on the track team and I never missed track practice. So I can't figure out why I can't go running now. And I thought, well, it just hit me like a ton of bricks because at one time it was effortless. Now she can't do it. She's the same person. It's the same task. Why? And I can think of 15 reasons why, possibly, but what was going on? And that moment was just like transformative for me. I became so preoccupied with understanding that sentiment. It led to my book, The Four Tendencies, because I realized that there were actually these 4 personality types. And she was my original example for the type that I ended up calling obliger. I didn't know she was an obliger at the time because I hadn't invented the concept. But without her, I'm not sure that I would have ever have seen my way to understanding this personality framework.
That's amazing. I mean, just drawing inspiration from any conversation. Hopefully I can say something on this that will create your next book. Who knows? But
right. There you go. Let's do it. Drop those pearls of wisdom. I got my pen ready.
There you go. You see, you have two points about you that I think the greatest of the great have. You're curious. You ask questions. You're curious about things. That's what I think the great listeners are. They don't just hear. They ask questions. They're curious. They dive deeper. And you're obsessed. When you get onto something, you're obsessed. You're all in. I think people shy away from that too. Balance, balance, balance. Balance is BS. The curiosity and the obsession. And I'm the same way. You know what's funny? People can be happy. Do you generally believe people can be happy? They can find their way to happiness if they have the right tools, the right habits set into place. I'm very in my empathy. I have terrible intuitive empathy. Like I just think people can be happy. People can be positive. Is that a truth? Do you agree with that? What are your take?
Oh, you know that feeling you get when you just wake up and you are not rested or recharged? Yeah, we all have it. We all go through it. How do I wake up with full energy every single day? It is literally the game changer itself, chilly sleep. I have an Ooler that goes underneath my mattress and cools my body temperature to the ideal temperature to get deep sleep, REM, high HRV scores.
Now, I have mine pretty cold, about 57 degrees. The optimal level is between 57 and 65 degrees. I have a weighted blanket, which just cools my body, and I'm just sleeping in restorative sleep. So when I wake up in the morning, no matter how many hours I get, I am juiced up and ready to go. And lucky for you, you can wake up the same way. The people at Chili Sleep are giving you a discount, giving you a code. So go to chilitechnology.com/pages/David Nurse to get your special discount pricing there. Remember, that is chilitechnology.com/pages/David Nurse, or just click the link below and it'll take you right there. It's sleep like a polar bear tonight. You get the best night's sleep of your life. Chili Sleep.
Well, research suggests that about 50% of happiness is genetically determined. So it's hardwired. Some people are born Siggers and some people are born Eeyores. And that, they bring that into the world with them. It's part of the genetic roots of personality. Then about 10 to 20% is what's called life circumstances. So this is things like age, health, income, occupation, marital status, things like that. And then all the rest can be influenced by our conscious thoughts and actions. So I think that for most people, there's low-hanging fruit. There's things that they can do within their conscious thoughts and actions that can help push them to the top of their natural happiness range, or kind of force them down to the bottom of their happiness range. Some is in our control and some is not in our control. So, and it changes over the course of our lives. So, it's always what I always say to people is like, are you as happy as you can be given your nature and your circumstances? Because there may be things you can't control, but maybe there's things you can control. And I think for a lot of people, when they step back and think about it, there are things that are within their control that they can do something about, even if there are other things and perhaps more significant things that they are not able to control. So it's like, let's do what we can with what we can, and just try to keep to the top of our natural range.
Super well said. Super well said. Talk to me on your podcast that you do with your sister. Your sister's incredibly talented, a Hollywood writer. Crazy, we come to find out that my wife worked on the same show that she did. Tell the audience about your podcast and what your guys' mission is doing this together.
Yeah, you're exactly right. My sister Elizabeth Kraft is half of a writing team. They're showrunners, and right, she and your wife was on The Shield, which Elizabeth and Sarah Fain created with. They just blanked out on her name.
Oh, the
prosecutor.
Yeah, the fix. Why can't I think of her name either? The O.J. Simpson prosecutor, for everybody out there, is Marcia Clark. Marcia Clark. There you go.
Marcia Clark. Yes, they created that with Marcia Clark. I'm proud of you. Well done. Good. It was the index card was not coming up to mind. Right, and now she's created Fantasy Island, which is in season 2.
So cool.
So every week it's called Happier with Gretchen Rubin, and for about 30 or 40 minutes, we talk about ways to be happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative. So we look at the cutting edge science, the wisdom of the ages, pop culture, and a lot of our own experiences. And it's very practical. So like our first segment is always try this at home, which is kind of like a practical, tip, exercise that someone could do as part of their ordinary day. Sometimes we do interviews. Sometimes we have know yourself better questions. Sometimes we have listener questions. Sometimes we do deep dives into subjects that are really interesting to people. And we give ourselves demerits and gold stars because that helps us to do better in our own happiness. So it's really fun, and we're coming up pretty soon. We'll be at our 400th episode. We've been doing it nonstop since 2015. We have not missed 1 week. We're very vain about that. Yeah.
Oh, incredible, relentless consistency there with it, and
relentless. Yeah.
I love how you guys just have fun with it. Like I follow your Instagram and following the podcast. You guys just have fun. Like you have fun. You have fun in teaching people principles that they can implement into their lives and be able to see this happiness, this life of joy that they live. That's incredible. Gretchen, I see you as a visionary, someone who can see a few steps ahead of everybody else. So what's big that's on your plate coming next? What are you really excited about? Yes, the podcast, but what else is coming up for Gretchen Rubin?
Well, I just created an app called the Happier app. And what it does is, so I mentioned that I have this personality framework, and it turns out that whether you're an upholder, a questioner, obliger, rebel, makes a very big difference in what kind of tools work for you. David, I happen to know that you're a rebel. And so the kind of tools and I'm an upholder, which are they're very different. And so the kind of tools that would work for me might not work for you because you don't want to feel locked in. You don't want to feel like you have to check in every day. And so it suggests tools, and there's a lot of tools that are meant to help people keep their habits. Because what I found is that when it comes to happiness, like sometimes people need to figure out what they need to do to be happier, but a lot of times they know perfectly well what they should do to be happier. Totally. And the problem is, okay, but how do I stick to that? How do I do that? How do I make that a habit in my life? And so the Happier app is meant to help people find it like fun and easy and convenient and effective, to give them the tools so that they can stick to the habits that will make their lives happier. So this is brand new, and I'm very, very excited about it.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, I'm definitely going to promote. That is right down my alley. Seriously, that is.
Oh, good.
That's awesome. Yeah, you knew I was a rebel. You're right. I do not like to check in. Maybe because I can't follow instructions or orders very well, but that's another story.
Right. Well, but that's what it is. That is what that rebels are like. They if you ask or tell them to do something, they're very likely to resist. That is right there at the core of rebel. So I am not surprised to hear it.
Yes. Gretchen, as we wrap up here, we're going to throw you on the rapid fire hot seat. So these can be super quick answers that come to your mind. The first one I have for you, do you have a favorite mindset quote or a mantra that has stuck with you or that you have on your bathroom mirror or kitchen fridge that stands out to you?
Well, I have 12 personal commandments, and my first commandment is to be Gretchen. And everybody has to substitute their own name, but I just want to remind myself, I want to accept myself and expect more from myself, but I really want to be true to Gretchen and not some fantasy self. I want to be true to myself.
So good. The most attractive thing in somebody is feeling so comfortable in their own skin that they make others feel comfortable in their skin. Be Gretchen.
That's so true.
Super good. What does leaving a legacy mean to you? Not necessarily the billboards or the fame, but what would legacy look like to Gretchen Rubin?
I think that it's being the kind of parent to I have really, really great parents. And I think that I have tried to be the kind of parent that would be the kind of parent that would help my daughters to thrive. And then I think good parents, when you have good parents, it's easier to be a good parent. And so then I hope that's the legacy, is that I hold up the standard that my own parents, I feel, gave to me as a child.
That's the best answer you can say for legacy. Absolutely love that. Got a fun one for you here. You're at a dinner party. You get to pick 3 people that you want at that dinner party with you. They can be dead or alive, people you want to learn from, have conversation with. Who are the 3 people you're inviting? And most importantly, what are you eating? Is it Kansas City barbecue, or what is your last meal?
Okay. Well, yeah, let's go with Kansas City barbecue. I'll take the brisket. Cool. And I would say Winston Churchill, Benjamin Franklin, and St. Therese of Lisieux. I do not think that they would necessarily enjoy each other, but I would like to talk to all of them.
I love that. It's gonna be a high-level conversation right there. Hey, tell us about, real quick before we wrap up here, about KidLit. What are you doing with KidLit? How can we support, or any foundations, nonprofits that you are standing behind?
Oh, KidLit is for me. I love children's literature and young adult literature, and it turns out a lot of adults do too. So these are just book groups that I'm in, where we talk about children's literature and young adult literature. So I love KidLit, but and I support libraries. So anything that I would support, I would say get anything literacy related or public library related, because I think public libraries are one of our most important resources. So that's what I would point to. But KidLit is just for me.
Oh, that is so cool. Okay, that is what I was thinking. It was like, hey, for kids or literature, I was thinking, wow, that's amazing. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Public libraries, we were talking before, like brick and mortar, Barnes and Nobles, we have to go support that. We cannot give in to the Amazon domination. Amazon's probably going to hear this. They're going to take all of my books off Amazon. But hey, go out to Barnes and Nobles, the public libraries. That's great. Last question I have for you, Gretchen. We ask everybody if you could leave a drop the mic, like a one word or a one phrase piece of advice. Somebody is stuck in their situation. They feel like they can't go on. They don't know how to get out of it. What is that piece of advice that you would give to them to make their pivot
It has to be one word?
One word or one phrase. It could be something short. I mean, you could go something, or it could be a mantra. I'm going to give you some leeway.
Okay, I would say be whatever your name is.
Yeah.
Be fill in the blank.
That's it.
Be David, be Gretchen, be
good.
Be,
you.
Jedediah, whatever the name is. Yeah, fill in your own name.
That's perfect, because it is too hard to be anybody else, so why even try? Gretchen Rubin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for giving your time, and thank you more for all you do for people, just showing them happiness and showing them a better life that they could live. So absolutely honored to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have gotten a chance to talk to you and to talk Kansas City barbecue.
Yes, Q39. Check it out.